If you love gardening and want to start a side hustle, I have the perfect plan on how you can turn your plant passion into a lucrative green business. If we haven't met before, my name is Kristin, and I have a small backyard plant business where I grow and sell plants at pop-up sales and from my front yard. Today, I'm spilling the dirt on how I make money with plants like these. First way that I make money from my plant business is to propagate the plants that are in my yard and save seeds from them. The second way that I make money from my plant business is to buy wholesale plugs and grow them out for sale. Now we could talk about those in other videos because today I want to talk about the third way that I make money from plants, which is something that you can do right now. Let's go. So what is the third way that I make money from plants? Well, here it is. I wait until the end of the season and then I hit the big box stores hard and get a bunch of plants for 75% off, which I can then either sell next year or propagate from to make a whole bunch more plants. So why clearance plants, you're probably asking? Well, there's a bunch of benefits to buying clearance plants. One, I'm getting a large sale-ready plant for cheaper than I would pay for a wholesale plant when you consider shipping charges. The other thing is that it allows me to offer a wider variety to my customers. When I'm buying wholesale plants, they typically come in a plug tray that looks like this. They usually have 72 to 210 plants, depending on the variety of plant. So I have to order a large number of one type of plant. By buying wholesale plants, I can get smaller numbers and more of them to offer my customers a wider variety. Another benefit to buying clearance plants for sale is that I can really experiment with my market and see what sells really well and what doesn't. Last year, I did this for my business, and I was surprised to see how quickly a specific daylily that I had never heard of sold and how slowly gold star junipers sold. I still have those gold star junipers, but those daylilies were gone the first day. By buying clearance plants, I'm also able to save my customers a lot of money. I don't have a main road location. So in order to get people to come to my yard to buy plants, I have to offer lower prices. If I was paying full price for wholesale plants plus shipping, I wouldn't be able to do that. But by coming to my yard, my customers are able to get the same brand name plants that they would get elsewhere, but my plants are a year bigger and a year older and for less money. Another benefit to buying clearance plants is that it helps me with the number one way that I get plants to grow out for my business, and that's by providing plant material that I'm able to propagate from. For example, this is a green giant arborvitae. It's a super popular screening tree in my area. I bought this a year and a half ago as a wholesale plug for about $3, including the shipping. But this week, when I was clearance plant shopping, I found this green giant arborvitae for only $16. I think that I can make about 100 cuttings from this one plant, which would make each cutting only 16 cents. That's a much better profit margin. Another example is this beautiful skip laurel shrub. I've wanted one of these for a really long time. These shrubs are super expensive. They have really beautiful glossy green leaves. They get pretty white flowers in the springtime, and they're evergreen, which makes them really great for screening. The original price on this shrub was $74, but I was able to get it for less than $20. And just like the green giant, I could make tons of cuttings from this plant. I could also just hold on to it and resell it next year for $50 or $60 and triple my money. So what am I going to do, you ask? I'm going to plant this one. I've wanted one of these for a really long time, but the high price tag has kept me from purchasing one until this week when I found this one on the clearance rack. I will plant this skip laurel and I will also take cuttings from it. I could also take cuttings from this now, grow them out in my greenhouse, and still sell this plant next year. That's a good way of going green. And if you're not into plant propagation, that's okay. You could just hold on to these plants and then sell them next year for a profit. If you do want to start a side hustle, what should you look for in clearance plants? First, you want to think about what's popular in your area. I always look for hydrangeas because they are super popular in my neighborhood, but also they're a personal favorite of mine. The most important thing is that you look for plants that are hardy for your zone. You don't want to buy annuals, only perennials, and you want to make sure that they're ones that are going to survive the winter. Secondly, you want to look for plants that still look healthy. Now, plants don't go on clearance when they're in their prime. Most of the time, they don't become 75% off plants until after a frost, or maybe even 2. In my neighborhood, it was 2. So the plants aren't going to look like they did in the spring and summer months, but that's okay. You want to know what they should look like for the season that they're in. For instance, I'm going to show you my blueberry bush. The leaves have changed color, they've started to fall off. That's normal for a blueberry bush this time of the year. While I was clearance plant shopping, I found 2 blueberry bushes. The leaves were all withered and dried out and falling off. That's not normal for this time of the year, even after a frost. I wouldn't buy those plants. Their conditions suggest that they died from lack of water, not because of a frost, which means that they're dead. They're not dormant, so you don't want to buy those. However, look at these rose bushes. You can see that while this plant is starting to go dormant, the stems are healthy, it's got fresh green leaves. This one will look beautiful next year and will be a quick seller. So if I've convinced you, you go out and you get your clearance plants. Now what? You want to cut back any foliage that's dead or damaged, but don't cut back anything that's healthy, because cutting back tells the plant to send up new growth. That new growth would be susceptible to freezing and dying, which could kill your plant. Don't cut back anything that's healthy until the plant is fully dormant. Next, you want to check the root ball to make sure that the plant isn't root bound. Check to make sure that the plant still has a little bit of room to grow. If it doesn't, it's a good time to up-pot your plant with some fresh soil. If you can't up-pot, you can always check to see if there's room inside the pot for some fresh soil. I find that there's usually room for some extra soil because some of the soil spills out when the plant is being moved onto and off of the shipping truck, as well as being moved around the store. So if need be, you can always just add some soil to the pot to give those roots a little more room to grow. If you live in a colder climate, you should know that potted plants are more susceptible to freezing and dying from the cold, freezing weather, especially the wind. So you would want to look for plants that are hardy for 2 zones below the zone that you live in. So for me, I live in zone 7. I look for plants that are hardy down to zone 5 because I know that they're going to be safe. If you find plants that you love and you want to sell and they're only hardy down to your zone, you'll need to offer some kinds of winter protection. Right now you're thinking, but Kristin, I don't have a hoop house or a greenhouse. The good news is they're available relatively inexpensively on Amazon. I have 2 of these Kingbird hoop houses that I bought from Amazon for less than $200 each. They fit a ton of plants. If you're interested in learning more about these hoop houses, I'll put a link in the description. There are other greenhouses that are smaller that are cheaper than the one that I bought. There's also other brands that are cheaper as well. I chose these because it has 3 bars across the top, which makes it a lot sturdier. So that was important to me. Now, if you're thinking that these aren't going to work for you because of your climate, I'll tell you, I live in coastal New York. I'm less than a mile to the bay. We get significant winds. We also line the outer flaps with bricks to keep it sturdy. So that's one suggestion that I have for you. If you don't have the space for a hoop house, or you want to start smaller, either in size or in investment, you can also make low tunnels to protect your plants. They're an easy DIY project, or if you don't have the time or inclination, they also sell those on Amazon and they're less than $50. If you purchase plants that are hardy to 2 zones below your zone, you can also huddle them together and they will stay just fine throughout the winter. Here you can see my green giant arborvitaes that I've been growing out from wholesale plugs. These will be for sale next year. You can see that they're just all huddled together. We have these glass doors over them just for a little bit of protection when the heavy snows come. Although truthfully, that's probably not really necessary because these green giants are hardy to -20 degrees. And here you can see some other plants that are just huddled up in between these 2 garden beds. The wood and the soil from the garden beds will create a windbreak to keep these plants safe throughout the winter. Just for added protection, before we put this garden to bed, we will cover the pots with leaves and place leaves in between the pots for just a little added warmth. These plants are hardy to negative 20 degrees, and we almost never go negative, so they should be just fine out here for the winter. Of course, now that I said we never go negative, I probably just jinxed myself. I also feel like as a gardener, you can't really lose with this strategy, because if something doesn't sell the first year, you could always up pot it and just sell it for more money the next year. And if you decide that you don't want to have a side hustle, then you can just plant everything and make your yard even more beautiful. In fact, sometimes when I buy something really amazing on clearance, I kind of hope that it won't sell. That way I can plant it, but that never happens. And even if you don't want to start a side hustle, clearance plant shopping is a great way to beautify your yard on the cheap. If you're interested in starting a planterpreneurship, I invite you to subscribe to this channel for more content on how to make money with plants. So whether you're looking to green up your wallet or turn your backyard into a plant paradise on a budget, clearance plant shopping is the way to grow. So get ready to plant, propagate, and profit, because in this garden, the only thing that we're weeding out is financial stress. Happy shopping, everyone!